What's up, my fellow Michiganians, Michiganders, whatever you happen to call yourselves? Welcome to Wolverine State Sports Talk, and today we're going to be doing a film review session of Penn State. Now, this will be a tough game, as heading to Happy Valley is always going to be tough, but I think this is actually a pretty decent matchup for Michigan, and you'll see why in a second here as we watch film. We're going to diagnose what Penn State's biggest strength is, and also what their biggest weaknesses are. So let's take a look at this first play. The biggest thing Penn State likes are crossing routes and underneath routes, and this is a guy you're going to hear about a lot, number 5, Dotson. He's one of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten outside of Olave and Wilson, but he has extremely explosive speed, and you're going to see what happens when you don't jam him. And you're also going to see the type of concepts Penn State likes to run offensively. So it's 3rd and 5 here against Maryland. Maryland looks like they're playing an off man coverage. So this guy's supposed to have this guy, this guy has this guy, this guy is this guy. And you'll see what I mean. So they give this guy some space. They give Dotson some space, and you see both these guys go up the field. Dotson cuts up underneath, and this guy who's supposed to have Dotson is caught up in the wash, and he's nowhere close to him. Now, let's take a look at the way Maryland defends this play. Right, you're gonna notice something here too. Number 10 here makes this play interesting. So you see, Penn State has 3 wide receivers here. Maryland has 4 defenders in the area, but this guy, being an extra receiver, takes away that matchup advantage. And then when this guy gets behind the defense, it's over. And you have to get a jam on this guy, and you'll see why later in the film. All right, and then this is another crossing route you're going to see. You're going to see this a billion times from this Penn State team because that's just what they like to do. So yet again, they line up in trips here. It's 3rd down and 15. And look at the play again. Another underneath crossing route, and this guy gets wide open. And he actually could have thrown it to either guy, but you'll notice something here. You notice how many Maryland guys are in the screen. 1, 2, 3. And you notice how many Penn State receivers are. 1, 2, 3. This guy is going to beat most defenders in the Big Ten, especially the Maryland defenders. And as a result, he's wide open. And this guy also beat his man, so he's wide open. Just poorly defended from Maryland, but Michigan's going to have to do a better job against this underneath route if they want to win this game. All right, and then here's another crossing route in this game. It feels like they run this a billion times. Yet again, trips formation up here, right? And again, just get 2 guys running up the field. This guy cutting up underneath Dotson, and he's wide open. And you notice again something about Maryland. 1, 2, 3. And how many receivers are there for Penn State? 1, 2, 3. They come with a heavy blitz. Don't get there. That's just too easy. And you notice how every time they play Dotson, they have to honor his deep ball ability because this guy can run deep routes. The problem is when you don't get any hands on him, he has way too much space. And this is the last guy going to want to give space because this is the sort of stuff that happens. All right, this is another example of why you're going to see how important it is to jam the wide receiver. So it's 2nd down and 4 right here, play action. And there you go. Deep route right there. But you notice something about this coverage, right? No one is lined up in front of him. No one is going to get a jam on him. And this is the last guy you want running full speed. You have to have a guy at least jam him and then possibly have a deep safety over here. Watch this move. This guy was supposed to have inside leverage, and he really, really bit on the inside move. That tells you how quick of feet he has. It's not easy to do that to Big Ten safeties, but my goodness, he completely broke his ankles. But that's why you have to get a jam on him. You can't let him run full speed down the field, or it's going to be a long day for this defense. This is the biggest fear that I have for this Michigan defense going into this weekend. Can they get a jam on this guy and also defend these crossing routes? All right, but I'll show you here what Maryland does differently here on this play. And this is how you stop the underneath routes, the crossing routes, the swing routes. So you see Penn State here has trips to the left side, 1, 2, 3. But you notice the Maryland defenders, they're all close to the line of scrimmage. They're likely to get a jam on these guys. And here's Dotson right here. So again, they run the underneath or excuse me, this is Dotson, but again, they run the underneath concept. But you notice something about this? Look at how many Maryland defenders are on this play. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this guy is keying on this area. He's expecting this guy to go over the middle, as you can see. That's very well defended. So that part of the field is taken away, and then they get a one-on-one out here. I think Dotson and number 13, those are the only two wide receivers on this team that scares me. And this is also well defended here because he's playing inside leverage. If Clifford's going to throw an amazing out route to the sideline, okay, whatever, you can live with that. But you see he's rolling this way, so it would be impossible for him to throw back. But this is the main thing I want to see. When Penn State does the trips formation, I want to see 1, 2, 3, 4 guys committed here. This is excellent defense, and they play close to him. And you can see these Penn State receivers struggling to get some separation once they get jammed at the line of scrimmage. So if Michigan can jam these receivers, if they can identify the trips and commit an extra guy there to defend the underneath route, I think you take a lot away from this Penn State offense. And with the way this Penn State offense has struggled with pass protection, running the football, this could be an advantageous matchup for Michigan. All right, here we see again trips formation. And yes, we're going to be watching some film from our rivals down south. But I want you to watch here. I'm actually going to give some credit to Ohio State's defensive coordinator because they called a great play here. And you'll see here the limitations of Sean Clifford when you get pressure on him. And that's where I think Michigan could also have a big advantage in this game. But this is the one thing they have to do. So, as I mentioned before, Penn State is really good with this guy leaking out of the backfield. That's been their biggest thing. And you can see they actually have a guy open here temporarily, but Clifford's not keying that way, and he's not wide open. This guy is in decent position to make a play, be a 3 or 4 yard gain. But you see Clifford's keying on Dotson running down the field in a streak pattern, and this guy's supposed to be his check down. And in the Maryland game, this guy would have been wide open. But you see what Ohio State does here. This guy was actually originally lined up on the line of scrimmage, as you're going to see. See number 8 here, he's lined up like a defensive end. And then he makes a heads-up play, taking away this underneath pattern. And as a result, Clifford has to throw it away. So if Michigan wants to stop these crossing routes, these routes coming out of the backfield, the swing route, that's what I meant to say, the swing route, they're going to have to be creative like Ohio State is here. And maybe this is a concept Michigan should try to do. Try to use their defensive linemen to trick Sean Clifford, per se, into making some of these throws. It feels like I've been saying this a lot. I know you can't see it on the screen because this ESPN broadcast is a little bit closer in, but Penn State actually has 3 wide receivers out to the right side. And you're going to see again how that's an advantage. So they have the numbers. Look at how many Ohio State defenders there are. 1, 2, and then this guy running on late. That's not enough. So you have 3 blockers here against 2 defenders and 1 wide receiver. And this guy actually does a decent job trying to do whatever he can to stop the play. But the fact of the matter is, you have to have numbers when Penn State does trips, because if you don't have the numbers, if you don't have 1 extra defender for every Penn State receiver when they run these trips formations, they're either going to run these crossing patterns or in this case run a swing route. And even if you bust your tail to make the play, it's hard to make this play as a cornerback when you got blockers out in front of you, and this is just too easy of a first down. It's going to be pre-snap alignment is going to be super important. Pre-snap alignment, communication. Make sure you have that 4-on-3, because when you get a 4-on-3 on Penn State for their trip side, they don't tend to do as well. And also getting a jam on Dotson. That's the other key thing. All right, last thing I mentioned in the last part, the importance of jamming the wide receivers. So you see right here, Penn State again. How many times am I going to say it? Lining up in a trips formation. You notice a lot of times they're in 3rd down and long, and that's because their offensive line, they're not great at running the football. They're not really good at pass protection, so they find themselves in these situations a lot. So that could be really good for Michigan, who is one of the best teams in the country at rushing the passer. But you see here again, Penn State lined up in trips, Ohio State not jamming, and you see exactly what this results in. Very soft defense. Nobody gets their hands on these receivers. And Dotson's wide open underneath here. I'm surprised Clifford didn't go for him. but then number 3 emerges over the middle, and you can't give these guys too much space, or else they're going to make you pay. And Dotson, if you hit Dotson here up against a linebacker, are you kidding me? Oh, Dotson knew he had a touchdown there. I guarantee you Penn State saw that on film, and that's why they ran it so much against Maryland the next week. But the fact is, this is their bread and butter, this underneath crossing route, the trips to the right side, and then occasionally have a running back come out on the swing pattern. Whatever happens, you just got to have numbers on that side of the ball. And I believe Michigan can get pressure with 4 guys. And if you get your hands on these receivers, I think you have a much better chance of being successful than if you play very soft zone like Ohio State did right there. All right, this is the last play we're going to cover here. And again, we saw how Maryland stopped the crossing pattern, getting the numbers on the trip side. And here you don't see a trips formation. But if you notice here, the strong side is the left side because they have one receiver, a tight end, and a running back. All 3 of these guys are eligible receivers, and you see how they're going to run it. And all 3 of these Buckeyes are going to have a man. But you're going to see the Buckeyes do something creative here to get the 4-on-3 I was talking about. So it's the same concept. This guy goes down the field. This guy cuts underneath. This guy goes out on a swing pattern. But watch the underneath route, because that's where Clifford is first looking this way, but then he's going to key on the underneath route. But watch the way it's defended. So Ohio State has 1, 2, 3 guys here. Or do they? 4. Watch what this guy does. Right as he's cutting across the middle, this guy drops back into coverage, and he takes away the throwing lane from Clifford. Now, obviously the pressure helps on this play, but I like the idea of dropping this guy back over the middle, because you take away one of the bread and butter plays from Penn State, which is the underneath route. And then once Clifford panics, this guy has a clean lane to make a sack. But originally, his job was supposed to be to cover the underneath route. As you can see where he starts, he actually starts with his hand in the dirt. And Ohio State was definitely ready for this underneath route. They do a great job jamming the receiver here. Number 22 does a nice job picking up the guy he's supposed to pick up. And again, Michigan's just going to have to get creative. Take away the middle. Get that 4-on-3 advantage on the trip side. And jam Dotson. Do not let him get a free release. Those are the 3 things Michigan needs to do if they don't want to get burned by this Penn State offense.
All right, so I think Michigan actually matches up very well defensively in this game, because they're going to get Penn State in a lot of 3rd and longs, because this Penn State offensive line has not been great all year. They haven't ran the ball great all year, and this Michigan defensive line, I think, can really have a big day. So if Michigan does their job in the secondary, gets that 4-on-3 when they run those trips, they make sure they're careful of those swing routes coming out of the backfield, I think this could be a big day for Michigan's defense. But they have to do better against these concepts than they have in the past. That's the bottom line. Now, on the other side of the ball, it's going to be a tough day for Michigan's offense throwing the football, because Penn State's secondary is one of the best in the conference. They have one of the best safety duos in the conference, and Michigan won't be able to throw the deep ball a whole lot. But I will say this. The play-action game should be pretty strong for Michigan, because for whatever reason, Penn State's linebackers tend to overreact to a lot of plays, and that's where they give up their biggest plays on play-action. And the good news for Michigan is they like to run the football, and that gives them a perfect opportunity to run play-action. So this is also a very good matchup for Michigan's offense, and for that reason, I think that Michigan's going to win this game. I'm going to go U of M 26, Penn State 21, final score. All right. Keep your eye out on this channel. I got a surprise on Saturday. You all have a good night, and take care. Go Blue.